You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and before we get to the episode proper, it's Anzac Day today, Saturday the 25th of April 2020. I'd just like to give a shout out to all servicemen and women out there, those that are in the Army, Navy, Air Force, and if you're in the United States, the Marines as well, for your service to your respective countries. My grandfather fought in World War II. He certainly told me a few stories of his time serving in the Australian Army back in the 40s, of course, being World War II. So thank you very much for your service, wherever you are. Now, the interview subject that I have lined up for you is Eric Petersen from Testament. Now, the reason for the chat is to talk up the simply brilliant album from the guys for 2020, titled Titans of Creation. And of course, if you don't know, Eric is the principal creative driving force in the band. As he says through the conversation, he writes over 90% of the music. Something else I should let you know too, I've had all sorts of gremlins through my electronic stuff. That's the only way I can really put it, from bloody scooters to my Mac here to Premiere Pro, the Adobe software I use to put these podcasts together. Don't know what's going on, and I couldn't use my regular microphone, so I ended up using the Max microphone for the interview, and it sounds like shit, to be honest with you, but I tidied it up as best as I could. Either way, as I certainly hope you've come to expect, it's a quality conversation with one of the greatest guitarists in heavy metal. It's Eric Petersen. So here he is.
Hello.
Hey, Eric, Andy Mackay-Smith calling for a chat. How you going?
Good. How you doing? Were you? Is this the guitar and scars?
Spot on. That's me. Scars and guitars, but same thing.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I thought you were calling me at 4.
Oh, is that? Oh, okay. John's told me to call now, but that's okay. I can call in half an hour's time if you want.
No. I have another interview in like 20 minutes, so I've been waiting for 35 minutes.
Oh, have you?
It's 4:35 here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, mate. John told me 9:35 my time, so he's told me to call now effectively. So I apologise for the muckabout.
Oh, that's all right. We can start it, but when the other call comes, I got to jump over.
That's a shame, mate, because there's a heap of questions that I wanted to ask you actually. So I'll kick things off because.
Do you want to reschedule?
Mate, now that we're talking, let's just go ahead, and then if another opportunity comes up, because the COVID-19 thing and all the rest of it, we've got a bit of time on our hands, and you've got some time to chat. Let's do it. Yeah, I might as well just ask the questions that I've got now, though. If you're cool with it.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. Look, I'm a long-time Testament fan, and I've always loved yours and Alex's guitar playing. And I mentioned this to Chuck when I had a chat to him, that the band haven't had a bad episode, aka Megadeth's Risk, or just about everything Metallica has done, I think since And Justice, and that's just my opinion, of course, but you're aging with all the grace of a caged tiger who's sick of living in captivity, which is a truly great thing. And Titans of Creation, I've had it now for a while, it's just vicious. All of the signature ingredients that yourself and Chuck have imbued into the DNA of the band, they're there over the past 35 years or so. And the songwriting is just on point with this album too. It's brutally heavy in parts, but it's just melodic. So my question for you after all of that, and I know you're pretty much the guy that writes a lot of the songs, so did you compose a lot of the songs and then did you send them out via the old cloud bank, Dropbox or Google Drive or what have you, to Gene, Steve and Alex? And can you also just tell me how you wrote the songs?
Yeah, basically, I come up with about 90% of the material, and I work out of my room. I have a little jam room at my house. I call it the Dragon Lair, and in there I have, I have my Kemper, which is a profiling amp, and I have a little mini kit which triggers tune tracks, and when you listen, in headphones or through the speakers, it sounds like a real drum set. You can pick different drum sets. We happened to pick John Tempesta's kit, right? That's what I got going. It sounds really good. And, that's how, basically I'll get a library of riffs that I like, that I think are cool. And most of the time I kind of have a song mapped out in my head. I'll have Gene or who, on this record, Gene would come stay with me for like a week. He'd come up like twice a month, and we would just hammer out all the ideas, and record them right onto Logic, and then we could, with it the next day, goof around a little bit more. When he would leave, I would kind of edit some of his stuff. Just it's MIDI, it's a lot easier to do that. And then I would put a couple guitars on there, and then send it out to everybody. Let them hear it. Let Chuck hear it. Send it to Steve, and and I'd get Steve to come over and put some bass down on it. And Chuck would mess around at his house with vocal ideas. A lot of that, when we finally get together, a lot of stuff changes when we get in person. On this one, I didn't really get to hear too much of Chuck's demo stuff.
Yep.
But when we got into the studio, we would kind of mold stuff together, and it came out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. And then Alex has a couple tracks on here, and he kind of did it the same way, but I think he worked with the drum machine.
Okay, yeah.
So when I heard it, it sounded like a lot of work. I'm like, Jesus. So all that programming, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, what's it like working with DiGiorgio? Because by my own estimation, he's probably the greatest extreme metal bassist ever. He certainly was the first guy to do what he was doing, and he's been copied so often. Is it a case where you just let him off the leash and do whatever he wants to do, or do you have to give him some fairly specific instructions so he doesn't come back with this monster bass line?
He would come over, and I would teach him how the song goes. I'd show him. Obviously, he's got to know what the guitar is doing. And then we would just, like if there's a part that, since I know the song, rather well, from playing it for a couple months, I would just say, okay, after he had played the song with me, I would say, right here, you could probably do something, and I would mimic something like, and then, he would get his stuff down like that. So basically, how I guess any band does it. Whoever wrote the song would show everybody it, and then you kind of find your part where you want to, where the solo goes, or there's an open chord if the bass, if it calls for the bass to move around a little bit, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, I want to go back in time a little bit to the 90s and the Demonic album. Because on my podcast series, I do talk about the 90s a lot and the challenges that were facing metal bands back then, because I don't think a lot of younger listeners really appreciate how difficult it was for heavy metal through that era. Now, I've mentioned Metallica and Megadeth, and even Slayer had their moment with Diabolus and Musica, which gave a nod to new metal in 1998. But you guys went against the tide. So on Demonic, you guys doubled down on the heavy metal. You got far heavier. And you truly endeared yourself, I think, to the metal faithful in an era when so many didn't. But do you consider that album, I feel, is a bit of a standalone effort from you guys, in that it doesn't sound like any of your other albums. So do you think it's an important album for you guys?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Demonic was, well, first of all, Low came before that, and that was going to be our last record, our last option with Atlantic Records. And they sent a guy over to us, and he was our A&R guy, and he was like, yeah, if we could get, you guys are metal, but if we could swing a little alternative into it. And so, in my mind, alternative means something different. And I decided to, we wrote Dog Face Gods, and I thought, okay, this is alternative. So that's where the whole Chuck Death voice started. We recognized one of his secret powers that he didn't have. He would always do grunts and stuff on the earlier stuff, but never, like singing like that. So yeah, along comes Demonic. Demonic was actually supposed to be, I think we had kind of a falling out at some point with everybody, and we recruited Chris Contos and some other guy on bass, and we had some songs, and we were going to do a new project, and that didn't work out. So we got got Gene involved, and Greggy was with us, and Greggy was going through a lot of personal stuff, so we kind of just were like, forget it, we're done. I think me and Chuck said we quit our own band, and we resumed back together, and we got Derek, my cousin Derek, involved. And he played bass, and when we were done with it, we were just like, the record company was getting ready for it, and they were just like, yeah, we're all behind you with this new thing, but we really think this should be Testament. Can you hold on a second?
Sure, mate. Yeah, no worries.
Hey, sorry about that.
No, good. No worries. You're a popular man. It's like that.
So I was, I thought this interview wasn't going to happen, so I was going to go get a coffee, and I'm at a drive-thru right now. Anyway, so the label was just like, yeah, we're behind you, but so basically, in a nutshell, they talked us into it being Testament still.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad they did.
Yes, me too. I mean, this record, when we once we did it and we went out on tour. I think we toured from like August to December nonstop.
Yep.
So basically, like, we didn't go home and wait a couple weeks. We stayed out for like 5-6 months. It was crazy. But we did, like, we played every bar, we kind of just went out there and just built our name back up. Because from the Ritual to Low, we were playing to like half filled places, and it was getting kind of tough. It was a weird time, the early '90s.
Yeah. But
by the later '90s, playing smaller places and taking smaller guarantees, and we really built our name back up with this record, and we got respect, I think, from the underground. And
I agree, totally.
Yeah, and by the time the tour was over, the guys that were in the band were just, everybody was like, "Fuck off," because it was really brutal. And so me and Chuck and myself, we recruited Dave Lombardo. Derek was like, "I'm done. That you should call this guy up, Steve DiGiorgio."
Mm-hmm.
I called Steve up. We recruited James Murphy again from Low.
Yep.
And we went up and we came back with the Gathering. And when the Gathering hit, that was just like, we were just like back on top again.
I agree totally.
Really,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad talking to you that you see it the way that I saw it as a fan back then too, because I felt as though, and this is a big compliment, I feel as though The Gathering was one of the albums that signalled, it was actually the first slither of sunlight on the dawn of the rebirth of heavy metal in the new millennium. The Gathering, because it was no bullshit. You come off Demonic, which is an underground album, to your point, but The Gathering is more in the style of traditional Testament albums, but it's got more going on. And I know you did the retro album thing in 2001, but you followed up The Gathering with the extremely impressive formation of Damnation almost 10 years later, and yet you haven't stopped since.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to Chuck, I did say that I think you guys truly, in terms of impact on the mainstream, a lot of people who don't listen to heavy metal know who you guys are, but you're one of the bands that actually dragged heavy metal back into the spotlight in the early 2000s. So do you get a lot of that feedback, and are you yourself aware of that?
Well, I mean, like Demonic, I know, I just seen towards the end, because we were just, at that point, we weren't trying to get on any bigger tours. We just were like, we just want to play wherever we could play, and we were just heavy again. I mean, when I look back at our set list, I'm like, holy shit, and just getting, like I said, getting respect in the underground again. We had now a solid foundation. It wasn't like, oh yeah, that band's cool, I heard them on the radio, and you really don't have a fan. They're just like, oh yeah, I know that song. I mean, these people were like, not budging for us, so it was awesome. And then The Gathering just copied it all back in, and I'm just kind of repeating myself, but basically what that record did for us is it put us back on track for the 2000s. And I remember, like years later, a lot of Swedish bands and a lot of European, not only Swedish bands but Swedish studios were using our record as a reference for mixing.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, I was told that by a couple people that people that were top producers like
Peter Tagtrin, those sort of guys.
Yeah, like Daniel Bergstrand and Frederick. What's his last name? It's from Gothenburg.
Gotcha.
Frederick
Nordstrom. I think it's Nordstrom. Yeah.
Nordstrom. Yeah, I'm thinking of the department store Nordstrom. Yeah, it's Nordstrom. And I found that out because I ended up working with him on a Dragon Lord record. And he was telling me about that when he was doing what's that band? The Haunteds band before them. At the Gates.
Oh, At the Gates. Oh, God.
So there's bands like that, and like Soil Work and all them, but they were all just like, a lot of them were, giving the producer like, we want to sound like this. So, I mean, I kind of heard that just through the grapevine through a lot of Swedish people, and it was cool. I mean, you hear it later, it just kind of made it like, okay, like, because it felt comfortable playing that style of music. And even though we, on the formation, it kind of encompassed everything, but it still kept the integrity of the Gathering. I think Titans of Creation is more closer to, out of the last 4 records we've done, I think Titans is more closer to the Gathering, just in the pummeling sense of each song just kind of jabbing at you,
Mm. So a lot of bands, though, they, like, as I say, Megadeth Risk, I still can't listen to it. I'm not being too harsh on Dave there. I understand what he's trying to do. He's always tried to get his music onto radio. But a lot of those albums that were released by bands such as Megadeth and Slayer through the 90s, people don't listen to them anymore. They're almost not considered part of the catalogue by the nucleus of fans out there. But somehow you guys got through that period. And you could have. And I asked Chuck this question too. The temptation to write your version of Nothing Else Matters would have been very strong, I imagine, and sort of cave into that demand from record company types. But it sounds like, from all that you've said, it sounds like there wasn't even a thought twice to go that route. You just wanted to stay who you were and be true to yourselves and release the music that you wanted to, or did you actually feel that pressure to sort of bend toward the mainstream in an era when so many did?
Well, I mean, I'm all for. I grew up listening on. For me, a great heavy metal record has to have a couple slow songs. Like listening to Scorpions' Left Drive. Holiday. And Metallica. With their Nothing Else Matters. I mean, those songs are coming from the heart to me. When I hear them, I think they're heavy as fuck. I mean, you can tell when something is written for a radio. But when it gets, it makes when you're hearing your arms stand up when you're listening to something slow, I mean that could be just as powerful too. And we don't do them as much as we have in the past. Dark Roots of Earth, we did one called Cold Embrace.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's a great song. I mean, we had one for this record, but it wasn't ready. And so it'll be on the next one, but it's super cute. I wish people could have heard it. Yeah,
please do release it.
I'm not trying to defy what you're saying. I mean, I get it, but I mean, the bulk of it is just maddening. We like the crazy shit.
But you also, the thing about you, mate, is that you've got Dragon Lord as well. So you're probably the first out of all of the thrash luminaries, like the big heavy metal luminaries that I was a fan of, to reference extreme metal outside of Demonic and have your own band. So Dominion has been out now for a few years, and I know you were talking, I think it was about 2008 or 9 or 10, I can't remember now, I was reading an interview with you back then where you were saying that the record label didn't want to release some stuff from Dragon Lord or something. It sounded like you were in a funny situation there with the label and the way that they felt black metal was trending in the United States. But Dominion's a strong album, man. So that's been out for a few years. And did it reach the audience that you wanted it to? In other words, did you get a lot of feedback about it?
The reviews are great. I mean, a lot of people, especially on this new record with me singing on Night of the Witch and Crystal Osiris, I think it really opened up a lot of people to go, to ask about, don't you have a side band? And I'm like, yeah, these are just personal DMs, from Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. But and even some magazines are like, hey, don't you have because they're like, I really love your vocals on that song. And so a lot of them have, even, pre the interview, they have went and looked it up and listened to it, and they're just like, man, I never knew. So I think the reason a lot of people don't know is I've never really toured. I mean, Dragon Lord's been around since 2000. I think I've done 22 shows in Dragon Lord's career, Well, it's not a career. It's more of a side project. I shouldn't say career. But, I mean, with the new one, Dominion, I really, really wanted to get out and do something, but I knew it wasn't going to happen because of, the schedule and, what for Testament, just what's the demanding of it. So demanding. One day I'd like to get out there and do something.
It'd be cool. It's quality stuff, mate. It reminds me a bit of Emperor, actually. It always has. And was that the inspiration behind it? Was it the Norwegian black metal bands?
In the beginning, yeah, definitely. I mean, I was listening to Dissection, Old Man's Child, Demure, Emperor, Mayhem, Anorexia Nervosa. All those bands were inspiration. And also blending in, my style with it. So it had more of a beefy, I guess, thrash sound to it.
Yep, definitely.
It wasn't so much relying on the orchestra kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But this new one is definitely a lot of orchestration going on. So.
Well, same with your stuff. I think you've got I couldn't recall the name of your keyboardist there, but I understand you composed a lot of the music for Dragon Lord with him. Yeah, we'll jam together, and he'll play something, and then I'll make up a riff to it. I mean, my whole point with that was I really wouldn't think of those riffs without hearing, the keyboard, some
of the stuff that he does.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. I think that's it, mate. I think you got another call coming through in 2 or 3 minutes. So I really wish, the scheduling had been on point, mate, so that we could have a longer conversation. Because God knows I've got lot more questions to ask you. But
we could talk. We could talk till they call.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's do it, mate. Yeah. Because I feel as though, and I've always wanted to talk to you about this. I just feel like as though Testament have the most credibility out of all of the American thrash bands. And I know a lot of fans feel like myself, dyed-in-the-wool, heavy metal fans. I listen to all sorts of music, by the way, but when I want to listen to heavy metal, I want it to be real heavy metal, and that's you guys. And you're an extremely
thank you.
Well, you're an extremely underrated band, I think, and a lot of people, kind of myself included, to be frank, think that it really should be you guys over Anthrax and the Big Four. Do you feel as though Testament gets the props from the media? Because I think you do, but do you feel that way yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we do interviews and we talk to people, I mean, I think the people that take the time and listen to it, they kind of scratch their heads a little bit on our status, like why we're not bigger. But I mean, I'm happy with where we're at. We do pretty good. I mean, it could be worse.
Yeah,
it'd be better. I mean, we're kind of in the middle,
Yeah, I think a lot of people find that about you guys is that they've heard of you, and then when they listen to you, they're like, "My God, I've got a lot of albums to listen to here to get into because it's all quality stuff." What inspires you with the riff writing? Because some of your riffs are all time; they're fantastic.
Yeah, I am just being a fan of metal, man. I mean, I think. When it's time to write, I don't think, okay, radio, or I turned kind of into a fan, I guess, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, what do I want to hear? And that's one way to look at it. Another way is, I will hit walls and just be like, I've already done that, I already did that. And then you start tripping, like, so I'm going to play along to a beat, and it's going to be a thrash beat.
Mm.
I go, okay, I've already done that. You kind of go into those little spells, and it kind of sucks, but you just got to remember that.
What's
there's 12 notes. There's 12 notes, and it's like in all of music. But it's not that you're limited to it. It's like, what do you do with it? It's a feeling, I guess. And I'll just record myself and just get lost in what I'm doing, and then like an hour later, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm recording, and then I'll just crack open a beer and
listen back,
sit down and just listen to all the fumbles and then there'll be some great moments, and I'll go highlight it and loop it, and I'll just listen to that for a while, and then I'll get my guitar, maybe play along with it, or so. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Testament song? Is there a song that you prefer insofar as you think the riff is the strongest one that you've written?
Well, I know there's one that stood the test of time. That's for sure. Is Over the Wall.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see that song on our new record.
Yes.
It's just from all the punches and the chugging and the breakdowns and the changing of the keys and the solos and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff on the New Order as well.
Yeah. God, that guy sounded like he was motoring.
No, some Hell's Angel dude drove by.
Oh, sweet, cool, yeah. You in San Francisco, or are you just outside of it?
I'm in the Sacramento area.
Okay, I'm not too familiar with it all, to be honest with you. Yeah, I know it's the capital of California, I know that, but I've been to California once, but I just did the tourist thing, yeah.
Kind of in the middle, I guess, northern middle.
Yeah. Has Australia been an important territory for you guys over the years?
I know it took us a while to get there, and we had troubles coming back, and we found one promoter, and he brought us back a couple times, and we did really good, and we sold out, and then I think we were involved with Soundwave once,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I don't think we've been there since 2014, and we were really looking forward to coming and doing the download. But as that turned out, that got canceled, and so we'll see what happens. I mean, we'll definitely get down there again. I was kind of hoping to hit New Zealand up as well. I know that's kind of your guys' neighbor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there are plenty of Kiwis in Australia these days, mate. So I think half of the place, just about every Kiwi that would want to watch you guys, would be over here anyway. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, I think, isn't it? Metal really went away in Australia for a long time, probably 10 years or so. And it was very, outside of a couple of record stores pre-internet, it was very hard to find it anywhere. But people always find the quality stuff, mate, and that's you guys, so... But,
well, thank you.
So, mate, what about the guitar side of things as well? Can you tell me about, I know you mentioned the Kemper early on there, and I'm a musician, so this stuff always really interests me. What guitars did you write with, or what did you use to record Titans of Creation?
So I have a lot of different guitars in my studio. I'm endorsed with Dean guitars. That's what I use live. When I record, I have some old guitars that I've used forever. Like I have a Gibson Black Custom, and I use that. I have this white Signature. It's the old school model. There's one of them that just sounds crazy killer, and I use that one as well. And I have an Explorer from Dean Guitars that I use for the whammy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the solos, I use one of my old Stratocasters. I have a Ritchie Blackmore Signature.
Oh, nice. Beautiful. Yeah, fantastic. What year is that one?
Yeah. It's kind of when it first came out. It's been a while. It's been a little over 12 years old, maybe. Hey, that other person's calling right now, so...
Thanks very much, Alex. Sorry, not Alex. Eric, sorry, my fault. Sorry, I spoke to Alex before. So I say that, but Eric, thanks very much, brother.
He just hung up, so we can talk till he calls back.
Okay, no worries. Hey, I hope I can ask this question, mate. How's Greg Christian going? I hope it's not too sensitive a question, in other words.
I have no idea. I've heard some people that I'm friends with my producer Juan Ortega. We talk a lot, and they'll be like, "Yeah, Greg's band was in here recording." I'm all, "How's he doing?" He's doing all right, So I mean, that's about what I hear. He's doing all right.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Yeah, mate, that happens. But
and then sometimes I'll hear stuff on Blabbermouth. He'll start talking about something from the past, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know.
Yeah, mate.
But I hope he's well.
Yeah, it's a lot like that, isn't it? I mean, look, God knows how many bands I've been in, but I'm in touch with barely any of them these days. Bands are no different to the rest of society. People come into your life and they go out of your life, and I don't think, especially with fans tend to look into things that aren't there. We'll try to sort of, the Blabbermouth forum conversations, read into things that really aren't there. God knows I've had enough of my stuff get picked up on and put on Blabbermouth, and there's one. I don't have a problem with Blabbermouth, by the way. Sometimes I think it's necessary because of the publicity that it gives bands, but you can take one snippet of a conversation out and it can be extrapolated to be something that it isn't. But I mean, and I think a lot of the younger fans just haven't been alive long enough to understand that human relationships are very complicated.
Yeah, I mean, you grow up. We started when we were in our younger 20s, and things change, and you choose what you do in life, and then that reflects on how you get along with everybody.
Yeah, Alex is a monster player though too. You must enjoy having a guy like him around.
Oh, definitely. Alex is like an encyclopedia. You know what I love about Alex is I'm like, hey, how do you play this song? And it's like because we were working on this this acoustic song that we were going to do. Oh shit, this guy's calling again. I'm gonna.
All right, brother. No worries. Well, hopefully we'll catch up soon, eh?
Okay, take care, man. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
mate. Bye.
You've been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that interview subject is the great Eric Petersen from Testament. Thanks for listening.